We're almost finished with the 2026 NBA regular season, and by far, one of the biggest surprises of the year has to be the Phoenix Suns. Because after a terrible 2025 campaign and trading away Kevin Durant in the offseason, they were expected to be one of the worst teams in the league. But right now, they are 38-27 and 7th in the Western Conference. And at this rate, they will make the playoffs, and that is much better than what anyone would have thought heading into this year. And because of that, I figured it would be a great idea to make a video on the Suns and break down why they've been so damn good this year and why they've been a lot better than most fans thought. So of course, that's what we're going to go over in today's video. But before we do get started, of course, go ahead and hit the like button if you guys end up enjoying. And along with that, make sure you guys subscribe if you guys aren't already. That way you don't miss out on any new content like the one you're watching right now. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get things started. Now let's quickly talk about Devin Booker, who's been the face of this franchise ever since he got drafted back in 2015. And there really isn't much else to say about D-Book aside from the fact that he's still one of the best shooting guards in the league and is great offensively. He's been averaging 25 points per game and 6 assists per game while shooting 45% from the field and has a true shooting percentage of 58%. And he has been pretty bad from 3 though, as he's only shooting 32% from behind the arc. But Devin Booker, at the end of the day, he's still really good. He's still an all-star caliber player, and if you ask me, I think he is the Suns' best player. But the next guy we do need to talk about is Dillon Brooks, of all people, because he has been fantastic this season. Dillon the Villain, he has been averaging a career-high 21 points per game, along with 1 steal per game, while shooting 44% from the field, 34% from 3, and has a true shooting percentage of 55%, which is a little bit below average. But regardless, Dillon Brooks has been really good this year, and he has been extremely impactful to this team. He's been known as a good 3-and-D wing essentially his whole career. But Dillon Brooks has been playing like an all-star in 2026 and has even grown into being a solid shot creator, with the percentage of his assisted field goals being at career lows this year in 2026. And Dillon the Villain, he is one of the most hated players in the league and has been since 2023. But hate him all you want, you cannot deny his impact and the fact that every team could use a player like him. I mean, look at the Memphis Grizzlies right now, because while him leaving isn't the only thing that has led to their downfall, I think he was a big part of that team in 2022 and 2023, and blaming him for all of their issues back then was absolute bullshit, especially in hindsight. In fact, regarding his exit from the Memphis Grizzlies, while Dillon Brooks definitely humiliated Memphis in 2023 when he shit-talked LeBron only to lose to him and the Lakers in the first round that year, and while he certainly has his flaws, again, blaming him for all of the Grizzlies' problems and blaming him entirely for why they lost to the Lakers, again, that was absolute bullshit. Dillon Brooks, he is not a garbage player, and while he is hated, a lot of people have been, gravitated a little bit back to Dillon Brooks' side after seeing the Grizzlies' downfall. And again, while I won't justify everything that he did back then, I am glad to see that some people finally are starting to understand his impact on the court. Because again, he is really good defensively while being pretty solid offensively. But moreover, he's also really impactful, on the team as a whole, when it comes to his leadership, because he is a really good hustle player, and, he instills toughness into a team's identity, and that impact can really be, seen, based on what he did with the Houston Rockets last year, and also what he's doing on the Suns this year. Now, unfortunately, he recently suffered a broken hand, which will keep him out for some time. But regardless, Dillon Brooks has been very good for Phoenix. And speaking of defense, the Suns have been much better defensively this year. Because as I record this video, they are 11th in defensive net rating, 6th in opponent points per game, 2nd in opponent 3-point percentage, and 2nd in steals per game. And that is a night and day difference compared to last season, where the Suns were one of the worst defensive teams in the league, as they were bottom 5 to 10 in most defensive stats. But you look at this year in 2026, the Suns, it's been quite the opposite, as they've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. And Dillon Brooks, although he's not the entire reason for that, as we are going to get into, Dillon Brooks at the end of the day has been a massive part of that, and he deserves a lot of credit for how the Suns are playing this year. Now, aside from Dillon Brooks, the Suns' new head coach, Jordan Ott, deserves a lot of credit for this turnaround on defense and as a team overall. He's done a really good job implementing a new defensive scheme that focuses on forcing turnovers, pressure, and physicality. I already mentioned how the Suns are second in steals per game, but they're also third in opponent turnovers per game, and they have 7 players who are averaging at least 1 steal per game. And it's also really cool to see that Jordan Ott's staff includes former NBA players like DeMarre Carroll and Mike Muscala, and it wasn't that long ago when these guys were playing. Now, going back to individual players, Colin Gillespie, he has enjoyed a breakout season this year, and he has emerged as a really good starting point guard for the Suns, as he is currently averaging 14 points per game, 5 assists per game, and 1 steal per game, while shooting 43% from the field, 42.5% from 3, and has a true shooting percentage of 60%, and he is easily a top candidate to win Most Improved Player, and it's filled a big hole for Phoenix because they lack a good starting point guard over these past 2 seasons, and it was a big reason why they were pretty underwhelming in both 2024 and 2025. Now, I don't think Colin Gillespie, going back to his MIP odds, I don't think he will win that award, but at the end of the day, Colin Gillespie should definitely be top 5 in that race, and, at the end of the day, he's still taken a very big leap compared to last season when he was an absolute unknown, and now he's turned into a really good role player for them. Aside from that, Grayson Allen has been a really good 3-and-D wing, averaging 17 points per game and 1 steal per game, while shooting 41% from the field and 35.5% from 3. And like Dillon Brooks, a lot of people hate Grayson Allen. They think he is a dirty player, which, that is kind of justified, and I can understand why people feel that way. But at the end of the day, Grayson Allen is still a very good role player. You also got Royce O'Neal, who has been a good 3-and-D forward, averaging 10 points per game and 5 rebounds per game while shooting 42% from 3. And then Mark Williams, he has been a really good starting center for Phoenix, and he has been a really strong paint presence as he's averaging 12 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, along with 1 steal per game and 1 block per game, and is shooting 63% from the field. Now, staying healthy has always been an issue for him, and we're all aware about how he's nearly traded to the Lakers last season, but the trade ended up falling apart as he did fail his physical. But Mark Williams, when he's on the court, he is undeniably a really good player, and center was a massive weakness for the Suns last year, but Mark Williams, he has provided a little bit of a solution there in 2026. And then meanwhile, players like Ryan Dunn, Jordan Goodwin, and also Iguodala, they have been really good defenders, and again, a massive part of why the Suns have been one of the best defensive teams in the league this year. And of course, Phoenix also does have Jaylen Green, who they acquired in the Kevin Durant trade last offseason, and he has only played 17 games this year due to injuries, and while he's averaged 13 points per game, it has been on absolutely horrendous shooting. And there are still some Jaylen Green believers out there, but I gotta be real, I do not think he is going to amount to much with this team, and I gave up on Jaylen Green a few seasons ago, and until he shows me a reason to believe in him again, it's staying that way. I'm sorry, I'm just not a big fan of Jaylen Green, but maybe he can be like a good 6-man type player and be like a good spark plug off the bench. But again, I'm not a fan of Jaylen Green, and I don't think he's going to be all that good with the Phoenix Suns or really any NBA team for that matter. The Suns also drafted Kaman with the 10th pick in last year's draft, and he hasn't really played a lot this year, and he is pretty raw as a prospect, but in my opinion, Kaman, he has really good physical tools, and he could be a very good center one day who's a really good paint presence with some development. So who knows how long it takes Kaman to develop, and who knows if he ever does, hit his ceiling. But again, I do think he could be a really, really good player for the Suns in the future. Now, although the Suns have been great defensively, they are not super good on offenses. They're just 26th in points per game and 17th in offensive net rating. And it's not too surprising because outside of Devin Booker and I guess Dillon Brooks, who, let's be real, he's a number 3 option on a true championship contender. And I'll go as far as to say that Devin Booker is more of a number 2 than a number 1 on a true contender. Outside of those two, they don't have really any good shot creators, and they're also bottom 10 in team assists per game and team field goal percentage, which I really attribute to a lack of good playmakers on their team. But at this rate, I think the Suns will end the year as the 7 seed, and I do believe that they will make the playoffs at that seeding, and they'll likely face the Spurs in the first round. But I gotta say, as good as Phoenix has been this year, and although they have been very surprising and they have exceeded expectations greatly this year, I don't view them as a championship contender because, again, while they are great defensively, and Devin Booker's really good, and Dillon Brooks is also great as well, again, their lack of offense is a big problem and a big concern, and again, I don't think they have a number 1 option on their team, and because of that, I don't view Phoenix as a championship contender, and I do think the Spurs would beat them in a hypothetical playoff series. But even with that being said, the Suns have had a great 2026 season, and it's been a lot better than anyone could have expected, and you should be feeling really good if you are a Phoenix Suns fan. And I mean, sometimes you just got to appreciate teams for, again, just how good they are and just the way they exceeded expectations like Phoenix has, even if they are, not a true championship contender. But, as far as what's next for the Suns and their long-term outlook, I think it really does come down to figuring out, how do you become a real contender? Maybe you try and compete for a few seasons, and if it doesn't work out, then they could always, hit the reset button and try to rebuild. But again, the Phoenix Suns, they've been really good this year, and honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm really happy to see them, playing this well in 2026. But that's all I have to say for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, make sure you guys do hit the like and subscribe button if you guys haven't already. And feel free to check me out. The links to my Twitter and Instagram are in the description below. But without further ado, I am out, you guys.